to say, we're recording now. I knew I'd forget. Let me share again. Go. There we go. Get back on track now. Yeah, so we offer most of the modules we offer training for. We've got 17 modules at the moment out of all the CII modules. So we've got quite a big plethora of CII training. But what we'll look at today is the advanced diploma coursework. So I will assume that most of you have done coursework before with the diploma. The ACII is a little bit different, but you can still take sort of some of the things that you did in your diploma coursework into your ACII for sure. You can use some of the techniques that you used there in these coursework assignments, and we'll just look at what sort of the differences are. And here's the agenda. So we're going to look at how we deconstruct assignment questions, how you should plan those assignment answers against the marking criteria that they've given you. We'll look at referencing as well. That's a question we get asked quite a lot. What is the referencing supposed to look like? And what extra resources can I use? Where should I be going? What should I be using? We'll look at layout and structure as well. We'll look at how to conclude your assignment and also how to structure that. So with your beginning, the middle and the end, what does that look like? And also your bibliography and your referencing as well. We will go quite into a lot of detail about that because it is a really commonly asked question. Okay. So first of all, we'll just sort of do an overview of what the ACII coursework element looks like. So I'm sure you've seen already, it's 3 pieces of coursework per module, 3,200 words per coursework. So let somebody in, sorry. So it is a little bit different than your diploma, but I suppose when you think about it, your diploma assignments were between 10 and 12,000 words. So I suppose for each module, it's just the same, isn't it? But you're just doing it across 3 assignments rather than 1. The word counts are very strict, again, with the ACII. Your word counts you should stick to. Use the 10% rule like you did with your diploma coursework. If you do go over your word count, they will stop marking. But also on the other hand as well, if you don't write enough, that can sometimes be just as bad because it doesn't give a full understanding. The CII would probably deem that insufficient and not comprehensive enough. So as usual, the word counts don't include diagrams, but it does include any text contained in any tables that you might use, which is a similar premise to the diploma. Again, it doesn't include your referencing, so don't include your referencing at the end when you're counting your word count, and also don't include any of the blurb that they put at the top of the answer sheet. You know, I think they put in there, don't you, use Arial 11. Don't include all of that, just purely count the words in your text and skip the referencing as well. As always, your questions will be on Revision Mate, so make sure you go on there and check what your questions will be. Pass marks for this module, 50%, it's not bad, not bad. There's 80 marks available for each coursework assignment. You've got to achieve a minimum of 40 to get that pass. Okay. What I'd suggest when you go onto Revision Mate to get your questions, find a copy of the specimen paper. I don't know how much all of you used your specimen papers for the diploma, but I've found them really, really useful just to show what it should look like, because sometimes it's difficult to think, right, well, I need to start this, but where do I even begin? So use that specimen paper as a basis of the structure and what it's supposed to look like. And with the diploma, your questions, you sort of got 10 questions, didn't you? There was ranging from 10 marks to 30 marks. So with this, the advanced diploma is more context driven and scenario based. So all of the assignments, so your 3 assignments, say you're doing broking, for example, you've got 3 coursework assignments, they will all be unrelated to each other, okay? And you will need to discuss things with context, and you might need to talk about specific scenarios. You'll talk about your own experiences, which is very different to answering the standard questions on the diploma coursework. And as always, resubmissions are available if you need to do that. So if you pass your first piece of coursework and you fail your second, you can just purchase a resubmission in the same way that you normally would. You've got 12 months from enrolment. So you can see here a little timeline of how you should sort of space out those assignments. Has anyone got any questions about this before I move on? Just pop it in the chat, or feel free to speak. I don't think we've got that many people in here, so you should be able to chat. Okay. So plagiarism, the things to avoid, definitely try and avoid all of these things if you can. So copying or amending sections from your friend's work. I know that quite a lot of companies have and really encourage people to study in a group, and I think that's great. I think it's a great way of working. It's a great way of swapping ideas. Somebody might have a better understanding of a topic than you do, and they're able to explain it in a different way that's more digestible. So I fully back that. However, don't talk about your assignment questions together. Don't talk about your answers. The questions that you have are yours, and you shouldn't discuss those with anybody. We can't even discuss them. Having someone dictate to you, so telling you what you're going to be typing. So again, it's the sharing of work, isn't it, that they don't want you to be doing. Copying and pasting from the internet without citing the source. So it's important to remember that with every piece of coursework that you submit through the CII, it goes through a plagiarism software. So they will put that through there, and anything that's similar to something that's already been published will be flagged up. I don't know if anybody's seen in the CII journal, like the page of shame. Have you all seen that? I don't know if anyone's seen that. So there's a page in the CII journal where if people are caught plagiarizing, your name goes in there, and you don't want your name ended up in there. It's not great. So always make sure that you make a copy of what websites you've visited, especially if you've taken information out of there and put it into your coursework. Even if you paraphrased it, you can see they're paraphrasing without reference to the source. Just make sure you always put it in there. You know, you're not going to be penalized for using a lot of resources. So just pop it in to your referencing. Working with another person, we've already covered that, but I encourage sharing ideas, but definitely not sharing coursework. Big no-no for the CII. They do actually have a really good video on their website for plagiarism. I think it's called Plagiarism and What Not to Do or something. It's something like that. It's on the CII website anyway. You can just type in plagiarism into the search bar. It's only about 2 minutes long, but it's a really good video, and they give you some examples of what your referencing should look like, type of things you should reference. But we're going to go through that anyway here today, but the video is pretty good to look at. Okay, so I'm sure that these verbs are very familiar to you already from your diploma coursework. And I'm sure you've seen that what verb that they use in a question usually determines how much information you need to give in your answers. So it's really important to pay attention to the words that they use. What I like to do is just highlight any words like this in the question, just so I know, right, this is what they're asking me to do. They want me to identify, so I know that all I need to do is recognize and name what it is that they want. So things like justify is quite a longer answer than identify. That would probably be quite a short answer. So it really will give you an idea of how much information that they're looking for. Things like discuss. This is to consider something in detail, examine different ideas and opinions. So they really want you to look at alternative views here. Look at different viewpoints. Look at the finer details when they ask you to discuss something. Really get into the nitty-gritty of what it is that you're talking about. So analysing is just finding out the facts and looking at those facts in depth. What's the relationship between the facts? Make a conclusion, make your recommendations. State is another one as well at the bottom there. Express the main points in brief, clear form. So really, they just want you maybe just to list something here. You don't really need to do much more than that. So it's really important to look at those words. In the specimen paper, there is a list of these words that you can go back to. And they also have what they mean as well. So you can go back and look at those to make sure that you're given the right information. With the analyze, this is really where you're going to spend most of your time in your assignments. If you're being asked to analyze something, this is where you're going to put the most work in, because it's really drawing on the connections with what's in the scenarios, looking at all the key things, conclusions and recommendations. So I would expect that you'd spend most of your time in an analysing question. Okay. So there is a marking criteria, and this is how it is split up, which I think is really useful to know. So first of all, 30% of your marks are going to come from your knowledge and understanding of the topic that you're studying. So what they're looking for here with the knowledge and understanding is the accuracy and the completeness of the facts that you're giving in your coursework. Okay. They want to see some explanations of relevant theory. That might be from your textbook, from your study text, or it could be from wider reading, could be from other references, websites, reports, things like that. They want to see that you have a broad scope of the theory and that you're able to apply that to your role and what you do and to the wider market. You want to show that you've got a wider understanding of all of the topics that you're talking about. If you've read something in a report, you can talk about that in your coursework and show that you've got a really good understanding of what you have read. Could be that you just read something in the insurance news and you explain a little bit more about that and what that means. And this is why it's happening. And this is how it relates to the company that I work for and what I do. Just really joining all the dots together. Yeah. So that really shows that you've got a good understanding of the market as a whole. And that's really what you're trying to show in your advanced diploma. You're trying to show that you have that wider market understanding and knowledge. So 50%, sorry, just let someone in. So 50% of your marks will come from the application and the analysis of the topic. So what they want to see here is how does the theory apply to that specific scenario that you're working on the coursework. Okay, so link all of the theory to what it is they're asking you about. Evidence, what you're thinking, what your opinions are, back it all up. You can weigh up alternative viewpoints even. So you could take maybe 2 or 3 other viewpoints or opinions and weigh those up to provide a final conclusion. And I think you can really get into sort of a meaty debate in this section, which you can do that by looking at all the different viewpoints. You're sort of debating against yourself, I suppose, aren't you, in your coursework? But that's okay, because that shows that you've considered other viewpoints and other opinions, and you've come to a conclusion, but it shows that you've got that wider understanding of everything else that's going on and everything else that's relevant. So 10% of your marks is the structure in terms of logic and coherence. So they're looking for a coherent structure. So they want everything in order, headings, images, tables, a clear introduction and a clear conclusion at the end. Have you followed through with all your thought process? You've not just mentioned something and then just left it and moved on. You know, is everything tied up in a bow at the end? Yeah, just think about that bow that you put around it. Is everything all tied up? You know, don't be afraid to use headings and tables, bullet points and numbers. If it's a better way for you to convey information, then just do it. Because I think we have to remember that there's a human being who's going to be marking these assignments. And if we can make it easy for them to understand, it's better for us, isn't it, I think? And if you feel that there's a diagram, maybe, could be if you're explaining the structure of the business that you work for, they might have like a diagram maybe that backs up that or shows it in a better way. Just include it. It can back up what you're saying really well and create a really nice structure. And then we've got the final 10%, the use of relevant work examples and or examples gained from further reading. So this could be your own exploration of the business. So you may have had to do some research on some topics. It could be you've had to research other departments in the business. You may have had to talk about pricing or IT or marketing, and you've had to go to those departments and say, hey, can you tell me more about X, Y, and Z? That's really great to do, just to get that broader understanding. So that's like your work examples. And then your further reading list. So there is a reading list in the examination guide, but you can't go wrong with a little Google search, I suppose. So if you do go on any websites, you can find reports. You might use Insurance Times, Insurance Age, Financial Times, all of those sort of websites. Try and avoid Wikipedia, things like that, because anyone can just add anything into Wikipedia, I think, can't they? And it's not the best source of information, I don't think. Does anyone have any questions about this sort of weighting of where the marks are coming from? We're all happy with that. Okay. So we'll just go through some tips really about planning. Planning is really important. I couldn't imagine just going headfirst into a piece of coursework without planning it. So you should spend as much time planning as you are writing. So planning is key. It's quite an overwhelming task at first. I remember when I first got that diploma coursework, I was just, you know, I'm out of education for a long time. I've forgotten how to do all of this. So it's quite overwhelming at first. And if you've got a really good, robust plan, when you step into that assignment, it's really going to help you take out those first steps. So I like to, first of all, write down all of my ideas. So just a bit of a brain dump of what my initial thoughts are when I read the question. So I might read the question and think, right, so I could talk about this. I could talk about X, Y, and Z. I've seen this in the news, or I've done this, and then I just write it all down because I will forget otherwise. So get all of that on paper. And also it helps that when you're writing your assignment, you can go back to that and think, have I included that? Did I forget it? So do that initial brain dump, get everything down on paper. That links in with the second point here to create a mind map or outline plan. So a mind map can be useful if you've got a specific topic and write down everything that you think you want to talk about that topic. So just mind map it. Outline plan, so you might want to take your beginning, your middle, and your end and put bullet points. This is what I want to cover in the beginning, what company I work for, what's their background, where are they placed in the market. And then you've got your middle, which is the main part of your coursework, what you're going to cover in there, and then how you're going to conclude it. What recommendations are you going to make? Just bullet point it first. Gives you a bit of structure to begin the coursework. So word counts, have already gone over that. Arial size 11, that's always on your answer sheet, isn't it? They're quite strict about that. Make sure that your font is the right one, definitely. We've already discussed this as well before, using headings, subheadings, and bullet points. Don't be afraid to use those. Don't think that it's going to simplify your work. Make it clear. We've got to make sure that the other person who's marking it can read it, and all the information we're presenting them with is easily accessible. Yeah, so make it as easy as possible for them. So each assignment is going to be marked, read and marked independently. Okay, so you might have 3 pieces of coursework per module. And so for your first piece of coursework, you might introduce the company that you work for. When you move on to your second piece, don't think that you don't have to do that again, because that piece of coursework might go to somebody different and they don't know the company that you're talking about. So you can use that introduction and that context across all of your assignments if it works. You can't plagiarize yourself, yeah? So you can keep using that, that's fine. And of course, use your textbook as much as you can. Pull out the information out of there that's relevant to any scenarios. So deadlines are really important as well, I think, just to pick up in this section. You've obviously got a deadline from the CII. You always do. But I think it can be a bit of a mistake if you think, right, well, I'm just going to submit my coursework an hour before it's due on revision, mate. I'd be too nervous to do that. I'd be convinced something would go wrong. And that's why I always set, my own deadline, maybe a week before. That gives me time then. I finish my coursework. I've got a week before the CII need it with them. It gives me time to be able to read it with a fresh set of eyes. I might just leave it for a few days and then come back to it, read it with a fresh set of eyes, and then submit it, a little bit before the deadline, just in case there's any technical problems or something goes wrong. Just give yourself a bit of a buffer. It can help you stop procrastinating as well and thinking, I'll do it next week. I'll do it next week. I'm guilty of that, definitely. Okay. So with references, like I said before, Google is your friend. If you need to know about something, stick it in Google. You can even look for reports. I don't know, if you're talking about mergers and acquisitions, you could just type into Google, like Willis merger or report, and loads of stuff comes up. There's so much information. So your references should be from a reputable source, not Wikipedia, like I said before. So make sure that, it is reputable. It's up to date as well. You don't want to be citing something in your coursework which is 10 years old. Try and make it as up to date as possible, the things that you're referencing. Make sure it supports your answer. I know this seems really obvious, but don't use your wider reading or your referencing as like a bit of a buffer to try and get your word count up. Just make sure it's all relevant. You're not going to get marks for stuff that isn't relevant. So make sure that it supports your answers. Quality over quantity. Infobesity. I love that word. So quality over quantity is so important. Make sure that everything you've got in there is quality work. You're not just adding it in for the sake of your word count. Because like I said before, they're not going to mark you for it if it's not relevant. So it's a pointless exercise. So just make sure everything you write in is totally relevant. And finally, keep a record of where you found the information. So I've made this mistake before, unfortunately, where I've been on websites and I've got an information, or I'm talking about a report and I think, oh my goodness, where did that come from? And I've had to go through all my history and try and find where it came from. So what a good idea is maybe to use the sticky notes on your computers, or you might use the notepad function. So every time you visit a website, copy and paste the link into your sticky note or into your notepad and pop in the date that you accessed it. That's really important as well. So where was it? What is it? So was it a report? Was it a news article? What was it about? Who was it by? And when did you look at it? Okay. So make sure you keep a record of all of that, just so you can put it in your referencing. Okay. Another good place for extra resources I found recently is YouTube as well. I find videos, my style of learning anyway, I find videos a lot easier to digest than reading a report. So for me, going on YouTube and finding someone talking to me, about a situation or something that's happened in the insurance industry or in the insurance news, I digest that a lot better. So that's been really useful. So that's maybe something to look at as well if your learning style is more like that. So where can we get these extra external references that's going to help you to support your arguments in your coursework? So like we said before, you might look at articles, Insurance Post, Insurance Age, Financial Times, even the general news in the financial section. It could be LinkedIn. There's lots of information on LinkedIn, lots of reports on there as well. You might have a company website and they might share reports and articles as well. They're always really useful. you might want to refer to those. Statistics. So you might look online for statistics about anything. You might, if you're talking about your company, you might want to talk to whoever looks at your MI, your management information, or your data. They might be able to provide you with some statistics about the company to support any arguments that you put in into your coursework. Or even when you're given an overview of the company where you work, they might be able to provide you with their marketplace through statistics. I don't know, I'm just making it up. Something to think about. Interviews. So again, YouTube's a good place for that. If you want to find interviews with people in the market. CII books for alternative modules, really important. As a CII member, you do have access to all of the CII study texts. So really use that to your advantage. So if you're doing a advanced claims module, for example, you might not have done the certificate level claims module. Go back to it, have a look through it, see if there's anything you can pull out of that study text. So it's always worth having a look. If you just put into Google CII study texts, it'll come up in the search. You just click on it, log in, and it takes you to a page full of all the books. So that can be really useful. And it's good to have a read and develop a deeper understanding of a topic if it's something you've never looked at before. And the CII do have an e-library as well. They've got a knowledge section, they've got loads of stuff on there. Loads of books that are usually really expensive to buy, you can view for free on the CII website. So that's really useful. I know a couple of you are signed up to our online revision platform. So I'm just going to share something else just to show you what you can also use as your referencing. So we had a question the other day, which was, can we use your videos in our referencing? So we were like, yeah, of course, so long as you reference it correctly, that's absolutely fine. So anyone who is signed up to a course with us, you will recognise this page. So you'll see, as part of the course, we have interviews with people from the insurance market about different technical topics. So quite a few of these people actually have written CII books. You know, Mark Butterworth, Charlotte Waugh. So we do interviews with these people about the different topics, and you can reference that in your coursework as well. So if you just pop in to the referencing, what video it was, that it was in Power Development, the link and when you accessed it, that's fine. Go back to sharing my PowerPoint. A quick drink. Okay. Yeah, we've already really been through this, but some other free resources for your wider reading and research, magazines, Insurance Age, Financial Advisor, even the CII journal is a good one as well. I've had quite a lot of information out of there recently. Online newspapers, professional bodies, so that could be the CII, aggregator services, law firms, trade bodies, so the ABI, BIBA, they always have really great content out. Oops. Regulatory bodies, so FCA, on the FCA website, they have loads of stuff. Social media, like I said before, LinkedIn is a good place for that as well. A lot of people who work for large insurance companies and brokers share reports and articles. Legislations, case laws. just leave that on for a second, just in case anyone wants to take a picture of it or anything. Okay, so we'll move on now to the layout and the structure. So we've done all of our research, and we've done our wider reading. We've done a brain dump, so we know what we want to talk about. We've sort of planned what we want to do. So now we've really got to get into it and write the thing, okay? So this structure you'll be able to find in your specimen paper as well. They do quite a good job of explaining it in that specimen paper. So you'll always start with your introduction. So like we mentioned before, your introduction might be the same in quite a lot of your coursework papers, and that's fine. So the company that you talk about should ideally be your company, okay? Because it's going to be easier for you to access the information. You're going to know the most about it. However, sometimes it isn't always possible. So I couldn't talk about my company. I don't work for any insurance brokers. I'd have to talk about another company. If you're completing strategic underwriting and you work for a broker's, you might have to talk about an insurance company because you work for a broker's and you don't do any underwriting. So you may need to base your context on a different company, okay? And that's fine. So your introduction should be quite a chunky paragraph. Don't take up too much word count here. You might want to say things like the company that I work for, XYZ Brokers, is an international company. We've got branches in these countries, and list all the countries where you've got a presence, or the regions in the UK you might have a presence. You might want to say these are what our values are and list the company values. You can also talk about what the company's current position in the market is in relation to what you're studying. So if it's underwriting, it's your underwriting position of claims, and also what the future looks like as well. You know, where is the company predicting to be in the next 12, 24 months, 5 years? What does the future look like? And then moving on to the middle. So the middle, or the analysis section, this is really the main chunk of your coursework. Okay, so this is going to contain all the facts, all the information, all of your analysis, and all of your examples. So give as much detail as possible. Talk about your viewpoints. Like we said earlier on, talk about those wider viewpoints as well. Other views, other viewpoints. Discuss all of that and really give a lot of detail. Okay. And once you've done that main section, that main middle analysis section, you can then move on to your conclusion. So this is your summary and your recommendations. Okay, so what needs to happen next? What do you suggest happens next? What are your recommendations? This should be quite concise, your recommendations. Don't go into too much detail with those. If you look at the specimen paper, they do quite a good job of this on there. The recommendations are just a few sentences. It's nothing too in-depth. Okay, so just keep those quite concise. And then finally, you've got your references. So explain the theory, explain the relevance in the scenario, and share your opinion. Let me know if you've got any questions. I am keeping my eye on the chat. I can't see anything so far. I will keep my eye on it just in case. So in that conclusion at the end, I find it's really difficult to start an assignment and then to end it as well. Those are the two parts that I always find quite tricky. The middle bit is always all right, but it's just how to start it and then how to tie it up at the end. So in your conclusion, you want to summarize your findings. What are your views on this? What is the final answer to the question? So just reiterate that again. And what are your recommendations? And you should read it, read your coursework and think, okay, so what? I don't know if anyone's heard the so what question before. So this is where you as a reader, you read what you've written and you ask yourself, so what and what? So it allows you to think about the significance of what you've written. So what are the implications of have I made it really clear what it is that I'm getting at? What are the impacts? So it's good to ask yourself these things when you're going over your assignment on those final checks, just so you can elaborate on the areas that perhaps the so what isn't very clear. If you read a part of your assignment and you're kind of like, I'm not sure, then you should do something about that. If you're not sure what it is you're getting at and you're not sure if that's clear, chances are that the marker isn't going to either. So that final so what check is just making sure that everything you've written has that impact. It's very clear what it is you're getting at and you've not missed any information out that's really relevant to make your point. Yeah. So with your bibliography and your referencing, there is a really good video. I mentioned that before, I've just said it again. Really good video on the CII website, Plagiarism. And they go through this really well, showing some examples. But if you're quoting directly from a source, it should look a little bit like this. So you've got the direct quote from a website and then the website address. And then in your referencing at the end, you'll put the full website page where you've got that quote from and the date that you accessed it as well. So you'll just put a few little bits of information in the study text, in the assignment itself, and then everything else at the end. You're not using up your word count then. For large quotes, allow its own paragraph and indent. And if you're embedding a short quote, provide the course. So if you're referencing another book, make sure you reference that. Just because it's a CII book doesn't mean that you shouldn't reference it. So you should reference all CII study text as well. Okay, but you can always put, like it says here, N93 study text 2016 next to the part that you took out of the book and then put the full reference in at the end, just so you don't eat up your word count. So CII do prefer Harvard style referencing. There's loads of information about this online, about Harvard style. So you can see here, there's an example of what it should look like for websites, for books, and for articles. So you don't have to put all of that into your assignment. For this website, you could just put www.cii.co.uk, for example, and then put the full website, including the page and the date at the end. Okay. So that's why it's good to keep the sticky note. So then you can just copy and paste everything from your sticky note into your referencing at the end. Okay. Has anyone got any questions? Because that is my last slide and we've got 10 minutes. So if you do have any questions about coursework, anything CII related, anything really, please pop it in the chat. These are all my socials, so please add us on there. The bottom one especially, The CII study group, what we've got on Facebook, if anyone uses Facebook, it's grown massively the past 2 weeks. There's so many people on there now. And we all sort of talk about what modules we're studying, where we're up to. If people have got questions about technical topics, they put it into the group. I answer, or the students answer each other, which is really nice. We do Facebook Lives every Tuesday. So every Tuesday morning, you can come on and ask any ACII related questions, or you can just listen in to other people's questions. And then you can add me on LinkedIn as well. Please do that, because we're always sharing loads of stuff. TikTok and Instagram, we're on there as well. I've got 2 questions through, which I think are really relevant questions, actually. And it's a question that I had about advanced diploma assignments don't directly bring up areas from the book. So how would you recommend we use the textbook, i.e. like a guide? How much of the textbook should I be using? It's such a good question. I asked the same thing the other week. And the answer really is, you use it as much as you think you need to. Unlike the diploma, you aren't going to find the answers in your textbook, unfortunately. But with the diploma, they don't expect you to do any wider reading or research, because everything you need should be in the book. However, this is a little bit different. So what you might find is that the questions that they're asking you in the coursework, if they're quite specific, that might be in the book. So they might talk about the things that they're asking you about in the book. However, it's not a place to go to get your answers from, unfortunately. So I would use it as just a guide, really. I would read it definitely, and highlight anything. Maybe look at the question first and then have a look at the book and see if there's any areas in the question that are covered in the book. Should I be reading the whole book before I start writing the assignment? That's another good question. I would read the question first and then go to the book, maybe. I'd always recommend reading the book, definitely. However, it's a little bit different now, isn't it? Now we don't have exams, because you always knew with your diploma that you had to read the book because they were going to ask you something in the exam about the book, weren't they? Whereas now it's all about your own interpretation and your own experiences. So it's a little bit different. Definitely look at it, definitely open it and just see what's in there. But how much you refer to that and lean on it depends on the question that you've got, how much you know about a topic, and whether it's even useful for you, because sometimes it's not. I know people who've just written their assignment without even going through the book because they already knew exactly what it was that they wanted to talk about, and the book didn't help them with that. So yeah, I hope that helps. Difficult question, really. Everyone might use it differently depending on what questions they've got. But with this session, I have recorded it, so probably next week it'll go on the YouTube channel. We do have a YouTube channel, Empower Development. There's loads of videos on there. This one will go on there as well. We put all our free content on the YouTube channel. You're welcome, no problem. So is everyone looking to submit their coursework soon, or has anyone not started? Where's everyone up to? Not started. You're welcome. I'm glad it's been helpful. Yeah. Sessions like this helped me get started as well. Before I worked here, I was an apprenticeship coach, and I was studying, and I used to come to empower development sessions. That used to really help me, actually. She just spur me on a little bit. So hopefully that's done the same for you guys. Yeah. Oh, that's good. At least, you know, you've looked at the questions. That's the main thing, isn't it? Like I say, the book might not help you very much. We'll see. Definitely join the Facebook group and let us know how you're getting on. What kind of support do you provide if I purchase the module on the website? So if you want, I can show you, if you want to stick around, and I can show you. If anyone else has got any questions, please pop them in the chat. If not, please feel free to get on with your Friday afternoon. I'll do a little demo of what kind of content you get with one of our courses if anyone wants to watch that. If not, please feel free to get on with your afternoon, and hopefully I'll see you all soon. Thanks, Sophie. Okay. 8:20 you're doing, aren't you? Eliana, 8:20. I'll just get this up now. And then you can have a look at it. Okay, so this is what the course looks like. So when you purchase the course, you'll get full online access for 12 months. So we always have sort of introduction videos. So let's have a look. There's a video on referencing, for example, which we've gone through. So all of our videos, they either look like this or like PowerPoint presentations.
Where you've watched it is how you form your answer.
What else have we got? We also have like video content, so it'll either be Sam, that's Sam who's our managing director, or Grace, who's our other trainer, and they talk through topics. And then we also have, like I mentioned before, the technical topics where we have interviews with people. So if you want to look at claims environment, so we have lots of content like this. You see there's quite a few different interviews. And then we have some videos on the technical topics as well. So we have lots of videos like that, as you can see, some refreshers as well. So, you know, it might have been a long time since you did your certificate. So you might need a bit of a refresher on the insurance app. For example, we do little refresher videos on key topics. Then we do concepts in a nutshell as well. So any key concepts from the book. So for example, Ogden rate, we just try and sum these up really quick. So we just try and make sort of all the content sort of in normal person speak, if that makes sense, not CII speak. We try and make it a bit more fun and just easily digestible. We break everything down because there's so much information sometimes in the books that you need it just explaining in a more simplified way, and that's really sort of what we aim to do. So we've got some extra, we give extra resources as well. So we have a template for resources, anything that you might find interesting. So sort of reports and things that we found that we think you would find useful. You've got general ACII resources as well, anything that we think you should probably look at. So that's the same sort of structure for most of our ACII courses. I'll put the link to our landing page in the chat so you can go and have a little look at sort of the costings and things. Let me just do that. I'll put our website in the chat first. The website's changing next week, so don't get too used to this one. We've got a brand new jazzy one. All singing, all dancing, so it is going to look a little bit different. So on here, we've got a video about what online support that we offer and what that looks like. Some interviews with students as well. Companies that we work with, and then we have the sign up options as well with the costings. It's quite a lot of information to have a look through, and you can, I think you can look at, oh yeah, there's we've got different payment options now as well. So we do a pay in 3 option as well, so you don't have to do it all in one go. Did I put that in? Yeah, I've put that in the chat. Put that in the chat as well. But if you need any more help, let me just put my email address in there as well. If you want to have a chat about anything, just drop me a message and we can set up a chat. Is that okay?
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, it's very useful, thank you.
If anyone else got any questions or anything they want to have a look at? Yeah, you're okay.
Yeah, nothing else for me. Thank you. That was really helpful.
Oh, good. Thank you. Thanks for coming. Where do you guys work?
I work for Hiscox.
Oh, okay.
There's a claims handler there. Yeah.
Do you? I think you guys, have you got a license with us?
Oh, I don't know actually. I'm trying to think how I come across like the invite to this. I don't know if it's through them, but oh yeah, they'd be good if they do actually. Because I was just thinking that would be really useful.
Companies with a license, Hiscox. So get onto your HR.
Oh, okay. Oh, I will then. Yeah, definitely. Oh, thank you.
I think what they do with the license is anyone who's studying, they can just have access. So.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. Yeah. That was
Where do you work, Eliana?
I am Everett 3, so I might ask them to sign up for this, see what they really want us to do the exams. So
yeah, just drop me an email if you ever want to chat, or if anyone in HR or training wants to have a chat. We can always send them over some information about the licenses and things, so we can always do that.
That's fantastic. Great.
Okay, well, thank you very much for coming. It's nice to meet you, and hopefully I'll see you on maybe Facebook or Instagram.
Oh yeah, sure.
The TikTok's a bit silly, really. It's not very serious, so we just do a bit silly things on there, all about insurance though and how much we love it.